Hello, and welcome back to my program's dev playthrough of RP-1, where we flew by the moon, which is pretty cool. Uh, why does it say next applicant at 180 even though total science earns? I thought see, I was right to quit just for the wrong reason.
Uh,
Uh, applicants, okay. So next, oh, no, that's, okay, something's weird. Oh, I know why. Yes, I fixed only, so that display is wrong. That's what's going on. Uh, okay, there will be a slight delay as I fix this. Okay. Uh, okay.
I do kind of agree with you. It'd be nice if the Space Center management screen was not this tiny little corner modal dialogue that had you tabbing through a bunch of stuff, but instead took up more of the screen and had more info displayed.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're rapidly approaching the point where you actually need a, in the same way that there's the admin building and the mission control, we need a building for all the stuff that the KCT dialogue does. And like
Mm-hmm.
we could probably shove some of it into a tab of R&D, and so, but like then you're swapping screens all the time, and
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it being a floating dialogue that comes up
it just
by
needs to be
clicking
bigger.
it. Yeah, it just needs to be bigger and less having to tab through things and like tab through sub tabs, which is
Yep.
essentially what you've got by looking through LCs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely complicated the UI a bunch of stuff. So yeah. So
So
imagine. So it's a lot of. It's a fair amount of work, but imagine we had a full takeover UI, which you'd get to by. I mean, yeah, like you could. I don't know. I don't know where what you how you'd want to hook that up. Um, because yeah, like this doesn't really like this is like I'm not sure you want to split this stuff up because it's all basically time based. Could make it larger, but
I don't
I
necessarily
mean,
want to split it up other than potentially moving some of the time-based stuff. Like I want kind of like off the top of my head. Obviously, I've not thought through this, but I would have one kind of like time-based part of the window where like all your build stuff was showing all at once, and one window to kind of like scroll through your LCs with what they're building and some basic stats versus tabbing through them. Um,
Okay, so like basically a version of combined, except it like lists the LC and its stats and then its items and then the next LC like that,
mhm,
and you scroll. Yeah.
yeah, or potentially like a tree view, so you can like open and close the stats that are below an LC.
Yeah, I think yeah, then I guess in VAB you just have the LC selector in the KCT UI thing over here that shows how long it'll take to build instead of having to have it selected over here.
Yeah, I'm not currently worried about what shows up in the VAB. That's like a
Yeah.
subset of this, but more just kind of like what would be the most overall useful control screen for your space center management that shows you like all your relevant information. So relevant information would be like what is currently building and researching. The queues should be kind of like I shouldn't have to tab over to see that view. I should just be able to like see it, have it like you're currently using up what like that's looks like a 400 by 500 pixel box, and we could have 4 of those up if we wanted to, even on a min spec uh, screen resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also I wonder about since combined exists, I wonder if we could just go ahead and get rid of the rest of these things.
Yeah, maybe.
The problem is determining, like, I think what we'd have to do in that case, like, it would require a UI refactor where, for example, when you choose to roll out an item, when you click roll out, it asks you to select the pad. Because right now it works by whatever the active pad is the one you're rolling out to.
Hmm.
But that's fine.
Since 90% of the time you've only got one relevant pad anyway, that's pretty okay.
Yeah, if there's only one of them, it doesn't have to prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm not sure
Actually,
what's.
why does it even have to ever prompt if you've got pads associated with an LC? When would
Oh,
you
why is
ever?
that not? Why is that in the wrong place? Didn't notice that. Yeah, progress isn't right column. Uh, write that one down. Or actually, if you can make an issue for it, that's easier.
Sorry, what was the issue again?
So,
Progress is in the.
so if you're in combined view and you see name, progress, time left, progress is too far left, so is time
Oh
left.
yeah, okay,
Compare it to the operations tab where everything's properly aligned.
sure.
So I must have
Oh,
just changed something and didn't do the alignment.
no worries.
Yeah, Squirrel, having a section at the bottom doesn't really fix it because once you have more than one LC, like you don't want it to be the case that rollout will only work for one LC's rockets in the combined tab until you change what is selected down here. Like that doesn't help much. Um, but yeah, as for the rest of the stuff, I could just add the up and down arrows. Yeah, if we just made this window a little bigger, I could add the up and down arrows in the star or X or whatever. And then we could get rid of many of these tabs. Particularly because for construction, we don't really need to worry about this. And I'm not even so. Max, I'm interested in your take on this. Does remaining cost of all construction really have meaning if you can just uh, open this up and then check what your yearly sums are. Like, does it even really matter how much you're spending? It just matters how much you're spending per day.
I don't think it matters how much you're spending. Although I think I would like it. I mean, if we eventually combine KCT and RP-1 to have the budget screen there all the time as part of another,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
would be,
no, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
these UIs should go together. Um,
I added that issue, by the way.
cool. Yeah, we just have an operations tab on this UI that's all of this, and then a staff tab, and then we're done.
I think it'd be also nice in that that window you've got up there on the budget screen right now to have the each program list its current contribution rather than the combined program budget contribution.
Oh, yeah, that's fairly trivial to do if you want to make an issue for that.
Will do.
Like, it's nice to not have to do the math in your head, but I can see why you'd want to break it down.
No, I'd still have the heading there as a
Oh yeah, you'd have programs and then each thing. I mean, we
yeah
could just do the same thing. We'd have an I next to it, and you click on the I and it lists each program.
yeah I could do that.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I made astronauts on leave to take less upkeep. Okay, that all seems fine. That's going to take 30 days. So I definitely have a bunch of staff I can hire. I guess I want to make a bunch of folks researchers, and then the rest engineers. Although, God, that's going to tank my efficiency by a bunch. But them's the breaks. Yeah, scroll again. I think that's adding too much. I think it's much easier to, if you click roll out, if there's more than one pad to roll out to, you get to choose which pad to pop up.
I was asking, why does that matter nowadays with LCs? Like, ads are equivalent to each other. Shouldn't have to pick other than. I mean, if one's empty, you go to it, right? Used to be that you could roll out to a bigger
Oh,
than necessary pad.
oh, I see what you mean. Like, I guess. I mean, I feel like it's.
I guess
I
for
guess we
you,
could have
like,
a setting where it just automatically selects the first empty pad. Um, but
but I mean, like, I guess for
you're
you, you
right.
care
You're right
about
that they're
rolling out
equivalent.
39 versus 39A, but most people don't.
Yes, like
Yeah,
I am exactly the sort of person who'd want to launch exactly this launch vehicle from LC39A and this from LC39B, and that's
sure.
exactly the use case I was thinking of. But
Yeah,
yeah, like as long as if that's not the default, but it's still a reachable thing, then I think we're fine.
sure. Like, you could have a rollout and a rollout to button. So rollout 2 lets you do the
Yeah.
Nathan version.
Yep. Yeah, that seems fine. Like there's not too many things in the little star menu. Yeah, that works. Cool. Okay, what did that do to our budget numbers? Probably not much. Oh, yeah, it really did. Okay, that halved our yearly income because our expenses after subsidy is quite impressive. Interestingly, that now subsidy is only a quarter of the yearly budget rather than a third, and that's at maximum subsidy. So
At maximum subsidy, really? Okay.
yeah, but I think the answer to that is do the thing where uh, researcher salary gets put in a pool and you can pay for unlocks with it, and then expenses will be lower, and then we can just lower program income.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of game balance, it's like it's half a dozen of one if we just needed more money. But the whole like being able to not have to save in a bank essentially
Yep.
to be able to do CMs is nicer.
Yeah, I did have one brainwave on that, which is if you go into like in a node in R&D, we could say how much is banked for parts in that node, and in particular, instead of just having a general fund that everything goes into, we just store for every node uh, how much researcher salary you spent to unlock that node,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, we
and
could do
then
that.
the amount that gets credited to you is based up to that and all of its parents. So, for example, if I want to unlock the LR87 here, then I would have this and this, and then this, then this, and then
So
this.
basically, a value per line is what you're saying,
Uh,
kind of.
no, because also you get blue materials, blue sky.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, so
that
it's
makes
literally
sense.
all parents. You
Sure.
just
Okay.
do a search back. Uh, Syspiz, that is a known issue with editor extensions Redux. If you click on settings for it and then go to page 2 and click reset symmetry and angle snap keybinds, it'll fix it. And maybe one day Linux Guru Gamer or someone else will fix that in editor extensions Redux. Because it would really be nice to not have to do that half the time.
So then, other than paying for the rocket right before you then start paying to integrate it, we'd have no other like large upfront costs. Or I guess if you want to just over purchase ECMs, like just go nuts with them.
Yep. Yeah, I think those are the only. I mean, and hiring astronauts, but that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think if there are any other upfront costs. Don't know as there are. Yeah, but yeah, that'll definitely. That'll. I figure probably. Uh, well, there's also tooling. Um,
True. Right. Of course
yeah,
there is.
and tooling. I thought about doing a similar system, but I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I think that is wrong too. Yes, I agree.
What we really need is a manufacturing system, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've signed all my staff, so uh, I figured out why that's wrong. That's very wrong. Um, okay, training. Who's trained for what? Uh, you're you've got mission training, so you're gonna fly the next thing. Let's do it. Uh, while I'm flying this, that reminds me. So I think PAP is a reasonable argument for yes, we probably need to not wait until orbit to give you some recompense for the crew science.
Is he really struggling that bad?
I don't think super bad, but I think it's the case of you're missing out on like 40 science when your total earned science by that point and through other means is like 100 or less, and then another 40 or 50 or so when you're up to like 250 science. So like really non-trivial chunks.
Well, I did put in that issue for rebalancing some of it, so some of that.
Yes, that's fair.
But also, like, I mean, to some extent, if you're doing no planes by doing the 2 other contracts, you are potentially getting more signs some signs that the planes guys are not, or at least not being asked to do by getting the.
Yes, no, it is definitely the case that you're getting science you're not asked to do. But like I think, yeah, I think you're still gonna probably fly film and bio.
Yeah, but I mean, by the same token, somebody who was not asked to fly film and bio and grinds on it anyway could grind on getting plane signs if they wanted to.
100%. It's just the whole point of no planes was for people who didn't know how to fly planes, didn't want to know how to fly planes or build planes, which is, I think, categorically different from rocket stuff.
Sure, and my question there is, like, if we're giving them an experience that gets them to, like, how fiddly do we have to be? Like, I think right now, especially once the rebalance, it would only end up being like the people who are speedrunning who are going to miss that little bit of extra science.
But my point is, it's not a little bit. It's like literally a third of your early science.
Again, once you rebalance it, if it's down to a quarter, and if you don't.
Yeah,
really
sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. If we rebalance it down a bunch, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the hook for X-planes before was you got the science. Also because it's the only way we can give you flying low science.
Yeah.
Which, incidentally, if we do something funky like removing biomes from flying low science on Earth, which now that we have Harmony we can, maybe we could just have flying low science back for uncrewed stuff as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Although then that,
well,
yeah.
I know. What we could do is put in a program for death sticks. Just V2 them up, and you get some of the signs from doing manned launches suborbital early. You know how you had that thing for selecting what parts are, like, relevant, whether they were historic or fictional or some value in between? We could almost do that with the same thing with programs if people wanted to toss in programs that seem ahistoric but wanted to have them available.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Like, I'm sure if we had the, like the German program, they would be okay with death sticks.
we go. Although once again, I'm getting absolutely zero hypersonic science because we're going to spend very little time hypersonic.
Mhm. But you're doing something. What are you doing with this plane flight? What's the goal?
Just extending retirement and getting a bit more space science.
Okay, so hypersonic was not the point.
Yeah. I
Also,
started too far downrange, so we're gonna be over forest. That sucks. So we're gonna get no science from this.
oh. Well, you can always use my thing of putting some chutes on the thing to land it anywhere, and then grabbing other biome signs by knowing where to go. I could vaguely pointing you at most of them.
Yeah, that's true. But
That is
feels kind of
that's
cheesy.
a
Yeah.
speedrunner grind. Yeah.
Okay, so for a very brief time, we're getting hypersonic science. And we fell below the speed limit. Like I said, very brief time.
You could have gotten more of your velocity down low if you wanted to get a little bit more of it, or
Yep.
angled slightly lower. I don't think you care that much. You hired all of your free appointees?
Yep.
Okay. I take it you're doing lunar unmanned and crewed programs right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Crew report waiting, of course.
How far away from you are you? Sorry, how far from a Mercury capsule are you?
Uh, I'll have to check, but a good little while. Not sure they can last. I mean, I'll be lucky if they can last until gets queued, let alone until it's actually All right, so we're getting some hypersonic science. Okay, here we go.
And A is behaving poorly again, huh?
No, AA
Oh,
is fine.
it's
No, I've learned how to.
same flight, fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to use mouse aim flight for it. Okay, now AA is behaving badly.
Is it?
Yeah, it was. I guess it wasn't too badly because I was actually properly G limited.
Also, it looked like you were maybe control surface deflection limited. I was
No,
trying to.
no, it was spamming. It was flicking between full plus pitch and full negative pitch.
Oh, right. Actually, I was like looking at your plane 15 seconds behind, so that was it.
Ah,
Scroll patrol. What's a suntan? I mean, in reference to.
Lockheed CL 1200. That was Lockheed's original proposal that required hydrogen powered jet engines, which incidentally was why Ames Research Center was dealing with hydrogen, which uh, turned out to be very useful for Centaur. But anyway, that plan was scaled back a bunch and eventually became Blackbird
Called it a CL 200.
1200, I think.
Oh,
Or no, sorry. CL 1200 was the Lancer, I think.
CL 400.
400, yes, sorry. Yeah, CL 1200 was the Lancer, which was the successor to the F-104.
Gotcha.
Anything for low? Hey, folks.
This thing does look like a lot like a Skylon. Or I guess a Skylon looks a lot like this thing.
Uh, what I'm flying?
No, the suntan looks like a
Oh,
Skylon.
yes. Yes. Turns out that hypersonic problems have similar solutions.
Yes. Yeah, I guess the outboard engines are to put them out in clean air outside the hypersonic shock.
Probably. Although I think by the time you get hypersonic, the Mach angle is wide enough that won't. That's not enough. Sure, I'll land on that runway instead. Okay. In we come. Positively gentle glide slope.
You've flown a plane before, right?
Uh, I have 2 hours in a motor glider, but I've flown countless hours in sims, yes.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, I think gentle glide still, in this case, only applies to you.
Yes. Yeah, no, if I were flying this for real and also were less impatient, then yes, I'd probably want like what, 3 degrees, 5 degrees?
Well, in general, you would want to have your nose pointed at the horizon and have your
Yes.
sink rate determined by velocity versus rather than pointing at the end of the runway. But sure.
Yes, that is very true. Huh, why does the runway not have lines down most of it? It's interesting. Oh, they are, they're just shadowed a lot. There. Get a little lower first. Okay. Uh, that plane is my X-15 alike. I use it for flying suborbitals and also going real fast. At the moment, I'm not doing it for any particular reason other than to get my astronauts into space to extend their retirements. And she got almost 2 months. That's nice. And I got a little bit of science. Now, what are we looking at for retirement? January 1960. All right. It's possible we could get there. I definitely now have enough science to justify it. Cool, that's my first productivity upgrade. Okay, and Better engines. What's this have? Whoops, I'm getting some sort of background noise from your end.
Let me see if I can fix that.
Okay.
Is this better?
I think so. Can't afford the Alex. Anyhow, at the moment, that unlocks March 1960. So yeah, it looks like these two will make it to Mercury. That's cool. That's cool. So good I keep flying that thing. Let me check. Crew report. Yeah, next one needs to be over water. Okay.
Should definitely make a version with a cargo bay sometime.
That gives 100 rep and 15 science. I like. That's almost done, and then we can start building Atlas or something like it. Their budget looked like 15K per month. Yeah, because we hired all those folks. Interesting that the launch complexes are really quite cheap.
Do you think they're too cheap?
Probably not, because the integration teams. So part of it is that a bunch of my engineers are in the hangar. They're not well distributed, so the ratio of facility maintenance to integration teams is lower than it otherwise would be. Yeah, there's still 98 folks in the hangar. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, that's what's going on. All right. Yeah. 11 days. Don't care. Okay, so that's yeah, so that's gonna take half a year. And real quick, proficiency Mercury. Okay, so 265 days, but it's going to be 2 years until we unlock Mercury. So we're going to extend their retirement times by only 265 days.
Hmm.
Which is 9 months. So August, so May 1960, which will be after it. Okay, which will be after it unlocks. Cool. So yeah, once these folks return from their holiday, then I'll start training everybody for Mercury.
Shouldn't you wait a little bit longer because that'll still increase their maintenance once they're trained?
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yes, I absolutely should wait longer. I forgot about that part.
The feature you implemented yourself.
Yeah. Squirrel, I have no idea why you're getting crashing from warp. Okay. Um, sure, let's warp a little bit. Okay, our new LC is completing. So now, let's go ahead and build something kind of Atlas-like.
Except without the balloon tanks.
Yes, exactly. Squirrel, I'd be interested to know whether that's a Principia-related crash or not. So check for fatal logs. Let's see. Okay, so how do I want to do this? Well, okay, Squirrel, well, you have your answer. It looks like you're cursed when it comes to Principia. Okay, so let's merge that in so I have it to hand. And then, oh, that's right, it's, okay.
I think I'm going to try and
Yeah,
sleep, by the way.
yeah,
Good
I'm
night.
actually coming to the same conclusion. I'm too tired to
Okay,
try to make this launch vehicle, so I'm just going to end here. So,
fair
sorry to
enough.
bail, but thanks, Maxwell, for coming by. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Night.